leaving the Neolithic era, and we see settlements growing and starting to become large-scale urbanized or urban communities. This chapter we focused on ancient Near East, starting with Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia is known as the land between two rivers. What two rivers are those? There you go. Okay. Was that Easel? Okay. Good job. So the Tigris and the Euphrates. Okay, this development of urbanized cities led humans and human life to evolve again. What is new during this time period is that we see people mastering irrigation techniques. Who could tell us what irrigation means, or irrigation systems? What are they? It does have to do with soil, yeah. Nutrients, not so much, but a really big key factor, yeah. What's that? There you go. That's the answer. So irrigation is the supply of water to land or crops, usually involving channels. So living between the two rivers in Mesopotamia, the soil there was also very fertile. And with that also comes new technologies and inventions like the wheel and the plow. The casting of tools in copper and in bronze increased food production and simplified trade. With growing cities, the need for authority and government became prevalent. So in these times, we also begin to see leaders, becoming more prevalent, and we know their names now. So back in, Paleolithic and Neolithic times, we really couldn't put a specific name to a person, but now, things are being recorded, and we know the names of some of these rulers. So with things being recorded, we see the first form of writing in a writing system. Who wants to kind of take that on and talk about the writing system? Alex, do you want to do it? Just what is it? What's the writing system called? Don't look up there. Yeah. Go ahead, Rebecca.
Wasn't the Code of Hammurabi written in cuneiform?
I believe it was, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this writing system, cuneiform, is a writing system that consists of pictograms pressed into clay with a stylus to create inventories. The Mesopotamians, more specifically the Sumerians, refined this writing system into a series of wedge-shaped signs known as cuneiform. The earliest tablets with written inscriptions represented the work of administrators, perhaps of large temple institutions, recording the rations and movement and storage of their goods. Temple officials needed to keep records of the grain, sheep, cattle entering or leaving their stores and farms, and it became impossible to rely on memory. Okay. Moving on. So Sumerian art. So two dominant themes emerged during this time period in terms of art. Art enabled and reflected political power, and Mesopotamians used visual narratives. They told stories through art. We continue with the first major civilization in Mesopotamia, which is Sumer. So as I mentioned a little bit ago, Sumerians are very likely to be responsible with developing the first writing. Well before 3000 BC, Sumerians were recording their language using simple pictures. These people were energetic. They were farmers, traders, and sailors. Their religion recognized many gods whose feats and escapades were described in stories that were often preserved for generations. So they also had rituals as well as parties that were brightened by skillful harpists and singers. So not only do we see art as we know it, but we also see music becoming a prevalent thing. And Sumerian musical instruments have been excavated by modern archaeologists. All right, temples. Temples. So temple architecture became Sumer's focus. Scholars distinguish two types of Sumerian temples. You have your low temples that sat at ground level. The temples, they had four corners that were usually in placement with the cardinal points of a compass. So they were facing, obviously, northeast, south, and west. The temples were usually shared or involved three parties. They were rooms serving as offices, priest quarters, and storage areas, and they were all lined up against a room called a cella, which usually housed an altar that would come handy during rituals, when praying, or just when they're doing rituals. And then we have high temples. High temples are very similar to low temples. The only difference with high temples is that they were actually built on a raised platform above ground level. So these platforms were gradually transformed into squat, stepped pyramids that we know now as ziggurats. So in Sumer, we find some of the oldest known cities, including Ur and Uruk. In Uruk, we find the White Temple, which is seen over here. This temple was named after the color of its whitewashed bricks, and it was in honor of the sky god Anu. All right. All right, statues from Tell Mar. I'm going to actually play outline here. We have a couple key points. We talked a little bit about rituals, but large eyes. Who could kind of assume why their eyes were so large and so focused on either looking up or forward? Yeah, Micah.
Because like the gods were like in charge of like the not in charge, but they control like nature and stuff, and so they have like to please the gods and to show that they are thinking and that they are listening and that they appreciate them.
Yeah. Yeah, that they're listening. That's a big one, that they're attentive, they're ready. Good. All right. So what kind of people do they represent? I know the video talked about it, but what kind of people? Worshippers, yeah, people that were obviously ready to be, attentive with their God. And why do you think, or suppose their bodies were cylindrical? Yeah. Why do you believe that their bodies were cylindrical and not more defined?
I guess because they're supposed to be focused on worshiping, and so like if you put too much intellect to actually shape his body, he can focus on actually moving.
Correct, yeah. That's absolutely true. Yeah, you don't want to take away from worshiping with your own self or with, this sculpture of a worshiper. You want all your focus to be on that God. Good. Okay, moving on. So the standard of sorry. Once again, we got a little video. It's these people talking again, just likely hearing their. So after we talk about Sumerians, we're talking about art of Akkad. The Akkadian Empire was begun by Sargon, a man from a lowly family who rose to power and founded the royal city of Akkad. Akkad has not yet been located, though one theory puts it under modern Baghdad. So this image is really interesting. This image is of an unidentified Akkadian ruler. Some say it's Sargon, but no one knows for sure. It's one of the most beautiful and terrifying images in all of ancient Near East art. The life-size bronze head shows in sharp geometric clarity locks of hair, curled lips, and a wrinkled brow. Perhaps more awesome than the powerful face of this ruler is how violently it was attacked. So you can see here, someone has damaged the head by beating in the ears and gouging out the eyes and breaking off the lower part of the beard. So in your readings, who could kind of explain the history of this mask? No? Okay. It was said that this was such an image of power that the enemy who found this sculpture took it and actually deformed it and then took it back to their community and kept it as like a trophy. Yeah.
The book also talks about how it like is a symbol almost like representing like protests and violence.
Mhm. Yeah. And I mean, just look at the craftsmanship of it. Like, how advanced is that? Coming from where we were, like that's as good as you can get. That's how we do it nowadays, you know. So just the advancement in artwork and tools and refinery and metal casting. It's just amazing to see. Sorry, were you guys writing? Do you want me to go back?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right, I'll wait for a little bit. Okay. All right. So next up we have steles. What's a stele? It's pretty basic. I'm not asking like what this is, but what's a stele? Yeah, Sarah. Yeah, well, yeah, the basic definition of it is standing rock. All right. And I think I have one last video with this one. And then we're done with videos for the day. It better than me explaining it. I'm not going to have a conversation with myself about it. That's just weird, too. Okay. So, moving on. Neo-Sumerian. Okay, going back to... Whoa. They're not done yet. We have the Great Ziggurat. To reiterate, the ziggurat is the most distinctive architectural invention of the Near East. So like an ancient Egyptian pyramid, an ancient Near Eastern ziggurat has 4 sides and rises up to the realm of the gods. However, unlike Egyptian pyramids, the exterior of the ziggurats were not smooth, but they were tiered to accommodate construction and work that took place, as well as the administrative oversight and religious rituals essential to ancient Near Eastern cities. Ziggurats are scattered all around what is today Iraq and Iran, bless you, and stand as an imposing testament to the power and skill of the ancient culture that produced them. One of the largest and best preserved ziggurats of Mesopotamia is the Great Ziggurat at Ur. Small excavations occurred at the site around the turn of the 20th century. So here it is right here. The ziggurat at Ur and the temple on its top were built around 2100 BCE by the king Ur-Nammu of the 3rd dynasty of Ur for the moon goddess Nana. That's important. The divine patron of the city-state. The structure would have been the highest point in the city by far, and like a spire of a medieval castle, you would see the top of this thing from miles and miles away. And it would have been a focal point for travelers and the devoutly religious. So as the ziggurat supported the temple of the patron god of the city of Ur, it is likely that this was the place where citizens of Ur would bring agricultural surpluses and where they would go to receive their regular food allotments. In these ancient times, to visit the ziggurat at Ur was to seek both spiritual and physical nourishment. Okay? All right. So that's that. Going on, so I stopped before Babylonian. But if you haven't gotten to, the Neo-Sumerian, if you still want to read, look out for things like the stylistic and formal visual aspects. I'm going to have a discussion board eventually about the Akkadians and, how they're mentioned in the Bible, so keep that on the lookout. And then, be prepared to give a summary. That's also in the discussion. So that will not happen this weekend, but sometime next week. I will be more concrete with the date over the weekend. I'll think of a date. So that's it for today. Weekend homework, finish reading Chapter 2. Be prepared for Chapter 2, Lecture 2 on Tuesday. Quiz 1 is currently open. It closes Friday at midnight, so take the quiz. But before I let you guys go, I want to do a quick, kind of like a pop quiz. Super easy. Just like 4 questions. All right, who could tell me what 2 rivers was Mesopotamia located between? Kylie. Perfect. What was a major city state that came from Mesopotamia or was located within Mesopotamia? Sumer, yeah. Natalie? Okay. The Great Ziggurat, who was it dedicated to? Medicine. Yeah, okay, good job. What was the first form of writing called? Alex? Good job. So once again, like last week, those were like the 5 first questions of your quiz 2. Just a little freebie. All right, any questions before we go? No? You guys want to just go? Okay, go ahead.